evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome here to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of race number 11, the 61st season of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series playoff race number 3 and the first race of the round of 8. Last week, we saw our first elimination race. 8 drivers move on, 5 drivers came up short and have been eliminated. I'm Seth Cole alongside of Michael Norman, and Michael, it's interesting because you would think that as we get closer towards the end of the season, we have less and less drivers competing for the playoffs, which means we add more drivers into the non-playoff list. You would think the odds would say, yeah, more than likely, it's going to come down to points for your Elite 8 to make their way into the Final 4, but the last 2 seasons, season 59 was when the 2 races in the final round was implemented, and in the past 2 seasons, season 59 and season 60, one of the Elite 8 drivers has gone on to win this first race of the round of 8. So do we see that a third time here in 3 straight seasons? And if we do, how is it that these particular drivers are able to overcome a huge, what's the word I'm looking for, disadvantage ratio-wise between themselves and the non-playoff drivers to be able to lock themselves into the round of 4 in not necessarily a must-win situation?
I would like to know more how the heck you got all those words out without breathing.
Very
But
difficultly. It
but
wasn't
no,
eloquent, but they all got out anyway.
the statistics show that yes, that seems that it could happen, but again, it falls down to the fact that anything can happen here, Seth. It's we only have 8 drivers here that are still in playoff contention, and that's 8 out of how many cars that are starting this race
According
besides
to
us two?
according to my last count, I think 31 drivers are taking the green.
Okay, so that's 22. No, it's 23
23,
drivers.
yeah.
23. See, I can't math, but 23 drivers that are out
What's
that
that, a
have a better chance
3 to
at winning
1
this
ratio,
race.
I think?
Yeah, just about a 3-to-1 ratio of drivers that are not in the playoffs winning this race. So tonight, Seth, it's just time to kick back, open up a cold one, and just enjoy yourself.
That was nice. That came through nice, loud, and clear, too. Don't say what it is, because we're not sponsored and we might get in trouble. But nonetheless,
It's a certain red drink.
a red drink. Okay, well, I'm actually, you know what? We'll both down a red drink together here.
It's a red can drink. There you go.
All right, I just took a swig of red generic soda beverage as well, as the drivers are rolling off of the pit lane. Here's the starting lineup for tonight's event. Not a playoff contender to be seen inside of your top 10. Cy Jones gets the pole position. Glenn Harris will be to his outside. Tim Nofsker, unfortunate situation for him that we documented last week. He ended up at the very last minute, just before we went green. He was called away due to some work-related stuff, and obviously, as we'll see here on the points grid, he was eliminated from the playoffs. He's going to roll off on the inside of row 2 alongside of John Van Gorder. I believe this is Van Gorder's best start of the season. Jason Scheck, Bob Dixon, they're going to be back in row 3. Richard Martin, Jessica Shelton in row 4. Terry Bombard and Josh Metallic are going to be in row number 5, completing your top 10. Metallic, another of the drivers that was eliminated from the playoffs last week. Your first playoff contender is going to roll off from 11th place, and that is going to be your regular season champion, Joe DeSpirito. Greg Palmer, another of the 5 drivers eliminated last week, will join him on the outside of row number 6. Then you got playoff drivers back in row 7. That's Bob Seminara and Rodney Sullins. Row 8's going to find Donnie Garrett and Craig Hagley. Another playoff contender in Grant Wesley. He's going to roll off from the inside of row number 9 alongside of Tom Dixon. And the top 20 will be completed by John Godfrey and Mark Paglia.
Gilbert?
Paglia, another driver that was eliminated from the playoffs last week. Row 11 is going to find Bernie Mobbs alongside of playoff contender Brian Schilling. Jeremy Jeffries, who moved on to the round of 8, will start deep in the field. He will be in 23rd alongside of Ron Hagelin. Row 13 will be Bobby Farrell, Doug Hewlick. Chuck McClure is going to be the furthest back of the playoff contenders. He'll roll off from 27th alongside of Kelly Causey. Actually, they're in the same row. Those are 2 playoff contenders. Causey was in the must-win situation and got the checkered flag last week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. And the final 4 drivers to bring up the 32-car field tonight: Wiley Coate, Ken Roberts, Brian Rawson, and Jeff Cravello.
Breathe, Seth, breathe.
All right, then you call the green.
Green flag, we're racing here at Talladega. Boogity, 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 boys. Let's lock yourselves in that final four.
Did you see actually that call to green that they did at NASCAR on Fox for Bristol last week?
Yep.
I was very that made me smile. That was cool.
Boogity, boogity, boogity. And then here's Clint Boyer. Let's go racing, boys.
It had to be Boyer doing the last boogity, didn't it? I mean, he's the animated one. Well, Tim Nofsker, 1 week removed from getting eliminated from the playoffs, gets pushed to the front, courtesy of Jason Scheck. We're 3 wide there. That was Joe DeSpirito. Kind of caught Cy Jones unawares, puts him in the middle. Had a big run, a big push from Bob Seminara and Donnie Garrett on that inside line, and Joe DeSpirito charging his way up here to the front. Now, remember I mentioned that the past 2 seasons, when the first implemented 2-race final round was put in place, we have had back-to-back seasons where a Elite 8 driver has gone to victory lane in the first race of the round of 8. Rodney Sullins was one of them. The other one, the 24, Joe DeSpirito, and that was last season, locking himself into that Final Four to compete for the championship.
And he's right there, first car on the inside line. Going to be interested to see if that inside line can work now. As you can see, it's been mostly just a middle line here. And, Seth, we both raced at this racetrack pretty, specifically, and all 3 lanes, and as you can see, work. So it just depends on which groove comes in the earliest.
Yeah, I mean, I think tonight the racetrack will be a little bit more predictable for these drivers in terms of what they could do. Last week was a bit of a mystery because we ended up going into that race, as we've seen in the past, seeing the inside line being the predominant lane, and it actually trended a lot more to what we're used to seeing here at Talladega, where the middle line was actually the better lane, and the inside line just could not seem to get it going. A lot of drivers that we talked to at the end of that race were perplexed. So here tonight, a little bit more comfort level, I guess, for these drivers in terms of knowing where the grip is, where the runs are going to be.
Oh, we had a wreck. Big wreck in the back.
And we got some flips. Is that Causey?
That is Kelly Causey.
Oh,
upside
no.
Down.
One of our playoff drivers. He was in a must-win mathematically last week to advance into the round of 8. He got the checkered flag, but he is in this first caution. Wiley Coate, Mark Paglia.
John Van Gorder, right? That's
yep,
how you say
you got
it.
it.
He was involved in it too. Craig Hagley, perhaps.
Oh, Brian Schilling's back here. I don't know if he got through it or not.
I'm going to look and see real quick before we go back and see it officially. But yeah,
Joe DeSpirito's way back here. Did it start with him? Because he was up there inside of the top 10, and now it's got him crossing the line at 21st.
Yep, it was. The 24 got spun by, I believe it was the 7, and that's what I was going. That's what I was making those sounds for. DeSpirito moved up the racetrack just slightly, opening the door to the 7, tried to come back down in front, and he was already there. Didn't get a lot of damage, though, in that wreck. He kind of just got turned and maybe lightly hit the outside wall, but that was the start of the wreck. And I think even Metallic got a piece of it as well.
We'll take a look at it here. This was going into turn 3.
Might have bounced off the 143 down. But yeah, Metallic got a little bit of it. Ron Hagelin in the 111 car. The 17 also got a piece of it.
24, it looked to me like he got loose.
Yeah, if you look at it, I think he might have just gently bounced off the 143 car.
Either that or bailed out of the throttle to avoid hitting him, and maybe the back end got light.
Yeah, he slowed down 2 miles an hour, and that might have been the 2 mile an hour difference. The 7-Eleven, Godfrey missed that. Jeremy Jeffries missed that. The 92 gets clipped up and kind of scrapes the outside wall. That's Kelly Causey gets flipped over right there.
Watch a couple of playoff drivers
Brian
just behind
Schilling,
us.
I think made it through by going on the apron and just slowing down.
He just barely got on the brakes with Causey spinning in front of him.
Yep, he's on the brakes. Everybody spun in front of him. Nobody hit him at all. And then he just gets back on the gas and clears everybody. That was insane.
You mentioned about there were a number of our Elite 8 we're going to start deep in the field because of the random qualifying. Causey, Schilling, and McClure were 3 of them, and looks like 2 of them got through, 1 of them and Causey not so lucky. Here's the onboard with the Kodak machine, and then we'll go on board with the Race LM number 17 of Chuck McClure next. Cleared the smoke up ahead. There's Causey. Schilling backs it down, gets down to the apron. Causey on his roof right in front of him. Just let it all play out, and then picks up the throttle and drives away from the incident with no damage whatsoever. Chuck McClure, I believe, had a lane down to the apron right from the get-go. Let's go on board with him.
I don't know if you want to go on board with him. Flipping upside down like that?
Oh, no, we're on with McClure.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if the camera survived on the double zero. Did I?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I may have. If I did, that's my error. So Chuck McClure gets through. Brian Schilling gets through. And just from the broadcaster point of view, I think I have to say that the Aero 88 car is maybe the most difficult car to discern just how much damage a driver has sustained. I mean, if there's smoke coming out of the back, you know that thing's taking a hard hit and more than likely is done for the day. Certainly going to be down on power, but I mean, even with what we just saw right there, the double zero of Kelly Causey flipped upside down, and whatever the damage model may be, it didn't visibly look like he got any damage at all. Now, I doubt that's the case, but just visibly, it's really hard to discern with these cars who's got really bad damage and who's got just that kind of minimal damage that might have them maybe a mile or two off the pace if they're not in the draft.
And we'll definitely find out when we go back green.
Yes, that's the telltale sign. That's what you got to basically rely on, it seems, to know. Now, this is a very early yellow, and it looks like a couple of drivers elected not to come down pit road and play the strategy of keeping track position. That would be Tim Nofsker and Jason Scheck. Glenn Harris on back. They all came to pit road, some for fuel only. Some took on some tires, and obviously for a few of the drivers collected up in that incident, they may have been down for a little bit of extra damage repair. I thought maybe it'd be a little bit more split with the fact that that caution came out on, what was it, lap 3 or 4. I mean, definitely not within a fuel window. I don't even think with this caution coming out when it did, that even the drivers that pit would be able to make it on 3 more pit stops. I think that all these drivers right now still are on the same number of pit stops in terms of being able to make it the rest of the 66 laps. So we'll probably have some drivers that are towards the rear of the field come down pit road here at the 1 to green. But it looks like the highest restarting playoff driver is going to be Bob Seminara. Grant Wesley up in 5th. Rodney Sullins in 9th. Those would be your playoff drivers that are inside of the top 10 for this restart. We'll bring up the playoffs graphic again here. You saw it when we were going over the grid. And the driver or the position that we will be focusing on the most here tonight, and of course especially next week during the elimination race, is the 4th position right now being held by Jeremy Jeffries. And you can see that the points were reformatted after last week's elimination race, so points very close, only 24 points between the remaining 8 drivers. And around that cut line, you've got about 5 drivers that are separated by 6 points. Grant Wesley and Brian Schilling just 2 points behind Jeremy Jeffries. Rodney Sullins just 2 points to the good. And the other thing about it, Michael, as we get closer towards the end of the season and the field thins out in terms of playoff drivers to non-playoff drivers, is we normally then don't see super, super close points battles around that elimination line. Normally there's pretty big gaps, and that's if you don't have a good run here tonight, we could have 1, 2, maybe 3 drivers that go into next week in a must-win situation just because of the other drivers all finishing up inside of the top 5 or top 10 here this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. Points matter the most here, and every position is another point. Who's leading this race?
That would be Glenn Harris. The Dale Senior throwback.
Yep. That trying to remember what it was in real life. I forgot what it was. It was a Chevy, but I forgot what kind of Chevy it was that he drove in.
A Lumina?
No, it was oh Lord, someone in the comments have got to help me out on this one. There was a special number 8 car he drove in the then Busch series, and it was one that Dale Jr. just recently got and restored. I just forgot what the make or the model of it was. It was a Chevy something, I believe. Nova? I think it was a Chevy Nova.
Oh, you're probably right. You're probably right. I was thinking like all sorts of different Chevy manufacturers, and I
It was a
couldn't come up.
Chevy Camry.
Chevy Camry. That, I'm not gonna lie, that actually did pop into my head, and then I'm like, what are you crazy?
And
And
I
then
hate that you
another
said
little
that.
voice said
And I
crazy.
hate
I was
that
crazy once, but then
and
I
and,
said shut
and
up.
I hate that you said that because I was just took a drink of my red liquid over here. So mm,
Everyone out there,
crazy,
enjoy your red liquid.
crazy. I was crazy once. They locked me in a room, a rubber room, with rats. Rats make me crazy.
We're not gonna say what the red beverage is, but I will say Ron Hagelin. There's the answer. Anyway, green flag back in the air.
Speaking of Ron Hagelin, where is he at?
He's at the back.
Wow, they just call him out like that.
Well, no, I was gonna say, I figured that a bunch of drivers were gonna come down pit road to probably top off at the 1 to green, and that was indeed the case. About a dozen drivers came down pit lane there at that 1 to green. As things getting really racy up here at the front, Grant Wesley
Wow, and
jumping to the outside of
he
Glenn
was
Harris.
he was, and then Glenn Harris kind of forced him to the very outside, and I thought for sure he was going to get left
Oh,
out.
Glenn!
And there it is right there. Yep, he's going to get shoved out of line and have nobody behind him.
Grant trying to pin down that middle line now with Bob Seminara. Grant just hoping somebody jumps up there to maybe try and help him, maybe formulate a third line. Donnie Garrett's about 3 cars back. Shelton's going to jump up there with him. As now, the outgoing champion, Richard Martin, to the inside of Glenn Harris for the top position.
Here comes Richard Petty passing Dale Earnhardt.
How about that? A couple 7-time champs side by side. Oh, there's another Dale Earnhardt behind them with Rodney Solins. How about that? Where's Bob Dixon? We need the other Richard Petty car up here. Look at Grant. Wait, wasn't Grant just in trouble? Wasn't he shuffled out? He's found some friends, and he's going to the front.
Here comes Darrell Waltrip.
Being pushed by Kevin Harvick?
Wrong era, sir. Wrong era.
I mean, what other driver back in that time had Reese's as a sponsor?
That's true.
It's kind of an out-of-body experience. Dale Sr. looking over and seeing his replacement to his right. But Grant Wesley to the point. Wesley racked up enough points back in the first playoff race here 2 weeks ago at Talladega to have enough of a cushion. Missed last week, took the provisional points, and still was above the cut line. And now trying to win his way into the round of 4, the final 4, and looking for what would be if he were able to close out the deal here in season 61. Oh, as Shelton got to his inside, it would be his 4th championship in the last 6 seasons.
Kind of surprised as he just jumped down right there. They should have kept it together because now the 77 is the race leader here. And he's going to lead the lap at the line.
Yes, he is. Donnie Garrett. Big push there through the tri-oval from Tim Nofsker. Chuck McClure up there. It's taken, 11 laps and granted that 1 caution for Chuck McClure to make his way from 27th, now up into the 3rd position. Oh, we got a car on the apron back there. That was John Van Gorder. Looks like he's good to go. Not sure exactly what happened back there. Some good news for Kelly Causey fans. After that flip over here in turn 3, bringing out that first caution, looks like he's up to speed. He's in this lead pack. Last time by was scored in the 23rd position, back there with another fellow playoff driver in Brian Schilling. Looks like all drivers are up in this lead pack, so anybody that might have gotten bits and pieces of that last wreck, looks like they're all good to go. So, sounds like a contradiction of terms, but I guess we could call it a harmless wreck for our first caution this evening.
So far, yeah. Bobby Allison on the outside lane ain't getting a lot of help up there. New leader, by the way.
That would be Jessica Shelton in the Chevrolet number 9.
How, say it's Reese's on your screen, but it's Napa on my screen.
So Mikey?
It's Michael Harvick.
Michael Harvick. You know, it rolls off the tongue a lot better than Kevin Waltrip.
That just seems weird.
It does. Kind of sounds like someone you would have gone to high school with, Kevin Waltrip.
Just some random like nerd in high school, or in high school you went with, just look in your high school yearbook. Never knew that guy.
Never knew him. He apparently was in the same school as me, but didn't know he existed. Right now you've got non-playoff drivers 1-2 with Shelton and Martin. Then playoff contenders in 3rd and 4th, Rodney Sullins, who 2 seasons ago won the third playoff race to lock himself into the Final Four. That was in season 59. Grant Wesley now tucks in behind him in 4th. And then the 7-11 and the 7-12 lined up there in 5th and 6th. That's Godfrey and Bob Seminara. Tim Nofsker trying to make something happen up there on that outside line with Jason Scheck, but he's only been able to get up alongside of Bobby Farrell for 6th place. So we went back green on lap 6. As mentioned, about a dozen drivers came down pit road at the 1 to green, so they'd be able to more than likely make it around to lap 27, maybe 28. Drivers that didn't come to pit road might have been able to save enough to get to around lap 25, 26. So,
oh yeah, so we should be seeing them come down within the next like 5 laps or so.
Yep. No, it'd be a
pit.
little bit further than that. It'd be about the next.
Well, yeah, for those that didn't pit though, unless everybody pit, and I just
they all pit. They all pit.
Okay.
I thought Nofsker and Scheck were actually planning on staying out, but they actually came down pit road from 1st and 2nd at the 1 to green. So everybody did pit under that caution
Daniel
period.
Earnhardt took the lead with the help of Darrell Waltrip.
And then I'm trying to remember the car behind them, Tim Nofsker, what that's a throwback to. I'm pretty sure I said the driver a couple of weeks ago, and now I don't remember. The Holly Farms car, would that have been?
I don't remember anything.
Who was the Holly Farms car? Was that Ralph Earnhardt?
I don't know. No.
You don't know, but you're telling me no.
It wasn't Ralph Earnhardt. Ralph Earnhardt, I don't think Holly Farms was a thing when Ralph Earnhardt was racing.
I'm pretty sure I said the driver a couple of weeks ago, and now for some reason I can't remember who it was. Was Dale Earnhardt have Holly Farms sponsorship?
No, it wasn't. But that was unexpected. Sorry, I'm laughing because just a random video just started playing in the background. I was like, what the heck is this? And it was a certain WrestleMania kickoff show or kickoff party or whatever, Disney voices. So I just hear Seth Rollins being voiced by Johnny Depp.
Of course. Well, of course, in typical RTG fashion, we've got the battle within the battle. And, of course, I'm referring to the bracket challenge.
I was wondering when you were going to bring that up.
We're down to our final 4. Still waiting in the wings, waiting to see who's going to win on the loser side of the bracket is Jeremy Jeffries. Tonight, it is Bobby Farrell versus Bob Seminara. Bob squared. To see who's going to move on, they will face off against Rodney Sullins next week. The winner of that battle will then face off against Jeremy Jeffries. Right now, Rodney Sullins winning the battle on the racetrack as he's out in front ahead of the 88 of Grant Wesley. Here comes that top side, though. Nofsker, Jason Scheck, Chuck McClure, Brian Schilling as well.
By the way, thank you, David Day, in our chat for confirming that it was the Nova.
I don't know why, but whenever you say Nova, I think of Scooby-Doo's girlfriend. I don't know if you ever saw that series, the Mystery Incorporated series.
Don't know if I did.
Nova was a Cocker Spaniel that ended up turning out to be an alien dog, but she was she ended up being Scooby-Doo's love interest during that series.
Oh, you know what? I think I might have.
I'm trying to remember how she was introduced.
Oh, there goes Grant. 3 wide for the race lead.
Rodney Sullins now in no man's land along with Glenn Harris. Whoa!
Oh, boy.
Man!
Gosh, Tim Nofsker just about got spun there.
Oh, and now the reaction there in the middle of the pack. We almost were 4 wide. One of the Texaco Haviland cars there I think that would have been Craig Hagley. Josh Metallic was in the middle of that. Look at this. 3 wide, about 6, 7 rows deep. It all started backing up a bit there in that middle line with the 38 and the 8 dropping back. Oh, Bobby Farrell pushing up there on the inside, almost into Rodney Sullins. As now Grant Wesley to the point in the 88 car. Remember, folks, what's at stake here tonight for our final 8 remaining playoff contenders. If you win here tonight, next week, doesn't matter. 66 laps at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. You could run all 66. You could park after lap 1. You're locked into the Final 4 to compete for the championship. And while, as we discussed at the beginning of this race, it's about a 3.5 to 1 ratio of non-playoff drivers to the remaining playoff contenders, the past 2 seasons, a playoff contender has gone to victory lane in the first race of the round of 8. Grant Wesley looking to extend that streak to 3 straight seasons.
Oh, somebody back there is warping. I think that's the 19 as he pulls out of line there.
Yep. John Van Gorder.
I'm surprised you remember the conversation at the beginning of the race. You hardly remember breakfast in the morning.
I don't have breakfast, so that's an easy thing to not remember. What is breakfast? Let us know in the comments, what's your favorite breakfast?
Whether it's fast food or food made at home.
Fast food or slow food?
These cars should be roughly between 5 to 6 laps of coming down pit road, Seth.
Do you like fast food? Do you like slow food? Or does your food clutch for the final 3 laps?
I don't know. But the little birdie in my ear told me that there's about 5 to 6 laps of fuel left.
Okay.
And no, the little birdie in my ear is not our producer. I don't even think we have a producer.
We do have a producer, Matt Rod.
But he's never here.
Here's the thing, though. I would gladly do a trade-off with JTN. Their producer is Bristol.
Oh, yeah. I know. I was watching.
We need to get a dog for a producer.
Oh, talk to Matt Rod.
I would suggest one of my dogs, but one just sleeps and the other one barks too much. So I don't think either one of them would be really good as a producer.
I have a dog that likes to talk. And
yeah, Sadie. Yeah. We should have Sadie as our producer.
Yeah, tell her what she wants. Tell her what to do. She'll bark at you and
tell her what she wants, what she really, really wants.
she'll tell you what she's not going to do.
Don't tell me what to do.
To chip off the old block. Keep your arms and legs inside the car. Don't tell me what to do. Anyways.
So about 4 laps, I think you said? 3-4 laps away from when we're going to have pit stops here.
Probably around lap 25 to 26 is my guess.
And we've seen, we keep talking about this, but we've had pretty clean races here for the last 5, 6, 7 races, and we have seen because of that with the long.
To jinx us?
Well, it's a fact though. We've maybe had, I think combined in the last 6 races here this season, maybe 5 or 6 cautions. It's been really nice to see, but it's put a huge emphasis on green flag pit stops, and we've seen a lot of drivers. Last week, a couple of drivers ended up getting eliminated from the playoffs because of issues that occurred not up above the racing line, but actually down below on pit road, whether it was on entry or actually on pit road itself from line to line, and they never got a caution to be able to bounce back and recover.
Yep. I remember that vividly.
So we'll see if same holds true here for any of our Elite 8. I mentioned about the fact that, it is possible mathematically for one of our remaining championship contenders to be going into next week's elimination race in a must-win situation. A mistake on pit road could be one of the chief reasons.
Yeah. Ooh, little birdie in my ear told me between 2 to 3 laps.
And you got to think with Grant Wesley, who's now been out in front for... Wait, that can't be right.
Well, Bob Dixon is pitting this time, so that means these cars won't be that far behind him.
We've run 24 laps. I don't know if my monitors have... Donnie Garrett's coming in. I don't know if my scoring is having an issue or something. Grant hasn't led only 4 laps, has he? He's led more than that.
Yeah, I think he might have led more than that.
Yeah, my thing's indicating only 4 laps led. That can't be correct.
Did it go up just now?
It hasn't updated yet. I'll see if it does. That's Garrett, Tom Dixon, Bob Dixon. Looks like John Van Gorder coming in this time. Now Tim Nofsker going to the point. No, it didn't even update with Grant leading that lap. I think it just gave the lap to Jessica Shelton. So my lap leader count is not correct. I think Grant might be coming in this time. Yep. Shelton, Seminara. Ooh, we're going to be 4 wide. Harris isn't going to make it. Oh, he did. Wow.
Now, will he get a black?
Yeah,
though?
did he get it woed down in time? He was 4 wide there with Seminara, Shelton, Terry Bombard. He somehow made the commitment line. I thought that thing was going in the grass. And then these, I think, right here are most of the drivers that came to pit road at the 1 to green, so they were able to go the extra lap further. Tim Nofsker, Jason Scheck, Chuck McClure, Brian Schilling, Josh Metallic. Nice to see Jeremy Jeffries in that 1 car. Glad he got the opportunity to be able to race that 1 car tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you're trying to say.
Nobody else does. Whoa! Look at this. 3 wide, 2 different areas here. They all made it, though. Looks like the entire cycle of pit stops, at least for the entry to pit road, was a success.
Turned on pit road, and I think that's Wiley Coat. Yeah, it is.
Our camera shot. Oh, there he is. Yep.
Not even getting any type of service. Oh, look at this. Grant Wesley was out first, but now on the backstretch, Shelton's going to pass him, so Shelton could possibly take over the lead.
Wiley Coat trying to get into his stall here. And now they're servicing him. Here comes Shelton in the 9. There was the cars leaving pit road. Oh, look out! Couldn't tell if that was Pagley or Hagley. They were both in the same area there. But one of them came way up into the middle groove, merging onto the racetrack. Shelton trying with that momentum up to speed to get up here past Jeffries, Metallic, McClure, and Schilling. We're about to have about 4 of our playoff contenders up here inside of the top 5 with the 4, the 17, the 712, and the 88.
And look at the run they're getting on the leader right here.
Yeah, Tim Nofsker's going to be a sitting duck for both lanes. He's going to get trapped in the middle, Schilling to the bottom, Shelton to the top. Shelton with the lap lead. I'm trying to look down my list here, see if anybody might have been hit with a speeding penalty. It looks like, at least for the moment, outside of the Wiley Coat spin that you documented there on pit road, it doesn't look like anybody ended up having a problem. We're gonna wait till it all cycles around. We are showing a couple of drivers that, I don't know if they got a 30-second penalty or something, but Bobby Farrell is way back, and so is John Godfrey.
Very possible.
I'm not sure if either one of them potentially maybe missed the commitment line and got a 30-second penalty, because right now it's showing them about 30 seconds behind the leader. Brian Rawson, John Van Gorder also over 25 seconds back. And Ron Hagelin, Bernie Mobbs, and Cy Jones are now about 6 seconds behind the leaders. So there may have been something. It looked like, at least from the vantage point we had, following all the drivers onto pit lane, everybody at least entered onto pit road safely. But that doesn't necessarily mean that everything was hunky-dory from the commitment line on the entry all the way to the exit line, coming to the start-finish line off of pit road. Well, maybe my scoring is correct, but I thought Grant led more laps than what it's actually showing. Right now it's showing Jessica Shelton has led 9 laps in the number 9. Tim Nofsker has led 5. Grant Wesley has led 4, along with Rodney Sullins. And 3 laps led so far for Glenn Harris, 2 laps led for Donnie Garrett, and then 1 lap led for Joe DeSpirito and Richard Martin. Remember, Joe DeSpirito ended up being involved at the start of that wreck that brought out our first and up to this point only caution. He started towards the tail end of the field, or restarted towards the tail end of the field. He has been having to slowly make his way back up to the front. Last time by, he was scored in 15th. I think he's climbed a couple more spots since then on this previous lap. Might be ready to crack the top 5. You saw his neon green and yellow number 24 back there in about the middle portion of this lead group, trying to get back up to the front.
Running about single file now. Top, I want to say maybe 10, 15, almost 15 cars running single file here, and you'll see that for the most part, just settling down in between pit stops.
I believe based off of scoring, we've got 17 lead lap cars up in this front pack. A couple of lap cars in there as well. Wiley Coate went a lap down. I believe they passed by as well the 7-11 of Brian Rawson in the 6th. Godfrey, Rawson, Farrell, and Van Gorder all here together. Wiley Coate is right now the only car 1 lap down, so he'd be in position for a free pass. How about Terry Bombard up here in that 4th position? Good run for the Camel Ford Thunderbird. And Glenn Harris right behind him. This might be Glenn Harris's best race so far this season to date. Was up at the front. Led a couple of laps, 3 in total. Had a solid pit stop. Had that really impressive entry onto pit road, 4 wide. And barely made the commitment line. And right now inside of the top 5, right in front of Rodney Sullins. Looks like for our playoff contenders, we have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, 6 of them up inside of the top 10. The other 2 drivers, Kelly Causey running right now in 12th, and Jeremy Jeffries currently back in the 18th position. And Jeffries was the cut line driver, 4th in the standings coming into this one. Well, Jessica Shelton continues to show the way as we are halfway home here this evening in the 3rd playoff race of Season 61 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. These drivers just completed a round of green flag pit stops, settling into a run here, maybe in preparation for what could be the final pit stop of the evening. We're going to step aside for an FRN race break. You won't miss a thing. We're going to keep coverage here, and if trouble breaks out, we'll break in. Don't go anywhere. Coverage continues right after this. We welcome you back here to Talladega Super Speedway, as we are more than halfway home here this evening in race number 11, playoff race number 3 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series playoffs. First race of the round of 8. If a playoff contender, one of our 8 remaining playoff contenders, goes to victory lane, they're locked into the final 4. Next week, the entire...
Did I just see somebody go spinning on the front stretch?
Well, almost. That was
Rogers
D-Mart.
Martin. Is that a product of a bad bump?
Might have been. Nice save there. He was 12th place last time by.
Yep, that was a bad bump on the 77 of Donnie Garrett.
Martin keeps it pointed straight, never hit the inside wall. All that runoff there through the exit of the tri-oval.
Boy, some of these cars would have been great for a caution right there, I bet. Especially if we're approaching another round of pit stops.
Cy Jones is on pit lane, 3 laps down. He's been sitting there in that number 1 pit stall after the random qualifying draw granted him the pole position here this evening. Not sure what's going on with him. Wiley Coate currently is the only car 1 lap down, but these leaders are starting to approach some drivers that were on the tail end of the lead lap.
Maybe he just needed to go to the bathroom.
Maybe.
He's
By the way, during our race break, I want to shout out Milt Surratt. He did the research for me. I remembered that I called out who the driver was that Tim Nofsker had a throwback to a couple of weeks ago, but I couldn't for the life of me remember who it was that I said it was. Cale Yarborough was the driver that had the Holly Farm sponsorship back in the day. That's the throwback.
I'm looking at this now, and I see, oh, it says Cale drove in the late 70s Monte Carlo. Okay, you're right, there it is. I was reading it. Like, he said nobody. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I read the rest of it.
Shelton moving from the middle line down to the bottom. That'd be the indication. These drivers are approaching, potentially, when they'd have to make another round of green flag pit stops. Most drivers were in around the lap 25-26 mark, so it'd be about maybe 3 or 4 laps, if my calculations are correct here, of coming to pit road, and that would not get them to the end of this race.
No, it won't.
That'd have them, what, about 3 laps maybe short of the checkered flag?
I think so, just about.
Well, the scoring has finally updated itself. That's good news. Jessica Shelton has led double-digit laps here this evening. 21 laps now crossing the line for Jessica Shelton. Most laps that she has led so far this season in a race. Bob Seminara right there behind her, and Grant Wesley hounding him for that second spot. These two are playoff contenders. They want to win here tonight to lock themselves into that final 4. Terry Bombard currently in the 4th position, then a couple more playoff contenders, Rodney Sullins and Jeremy Jeffries. Before we went to that race break, Jeremy Jeffries was actually the furthest back of the 8 playoff contenders, around the 16th position. He has since worked his way up. He was leading an inside line towards the tail end of this lead pack, now up into the top 10, knocking on the door of the top 5, currently in P6. Ken Roberts right there with him. And then on that inside line just behind him, Kelly Causey, who won last week. Ryan Schilling and Chuck McClure right there as well. There's Joe DeSpirito in the 24 car. I believe that all 8 playoff contenders are currently running up in this lead pack inside of the top 14. So they can't seem to be able to get away from each other right now. And we already showed how close the points are coming into this one after the round of 13 to the round of 8 was reformatted. Tom Dixon there, the Batmobile, heading for pit road. So he'll follow a lap down.
Just heard the little birdie said they are pitting this time by this lap. At least I think
22
she did
to
say
go,
next time,
which is
so
outside the window to be able to make it.
They did say next time, which I'm gonna be assuming would be this time because they just crossed the start-finish line.
About 19 laps is the average that you can go on 2 cans of fuel here.
That's gonna
20
make the
if
ending
you're
of
lucky.
It's gonna make this interesting, Seth.
Nobody can make it, I don't think. Unless we get a caution during the point of no return, and then you can clutch during those pacing laps, I don't think anybody can make it. you'd have to get to lap 47's completion to make it.
Oh, and there it
Oh,
goes.
wow, Seminara into the grass. He made the commitment line, but he's in the
Oh, he
grass, so
didn't.
he's going to lose some
Did he?
spots. Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Yeah, he crossed him. He was to the inside of Shelton and crossed her nose from left to right. So he did make the commitment line, but he's going to lose some track position because of getting into the grass. He didn't spin it. Oh, Ron Hagelin did, though, right there. And Hagelin's right in the middle of pit road. Where's the rest of the field? They're on the back straightaway. Okay, I was worried that maybe they would be approaching pit road with the 111 facing the wrong way, but he should get the thing turned around before they get there. Here comes the second group. Jeremy Jeffries, Terry Bombard, Rodney Sullins, oh, Glenn Harris, oh no! And John Godfrey's in the wall back there. Harris was having such a good night. He did get the thing pointed back in the right direction, but he's going to lose some spots. Godfrey hit the inside wall. Here comes some other drivers that were part of a second pack. We're trying to reel in the leaders. Hewlick, Wiley Coate, Richard Martin, Craig Hagley, Mark Paglia. Here's your current race leader, Brian Schilling. Uh-oh. I think my NR might have just crashed. Oh, no, it didn't. We're good.
Good.
McClure, Schilling, Metallic, Nofsker, and Seminara coming. Oh, Seminara's coming back in, so he got a speeding penalty.
Somebody blew up. I think.
Did someone blow up?
I think she just said somebody blew up.
We're cycling through to see.
I don't really see smoke come out of anybody.
And I'm not seeing anybody slow.
Metallic back on pit road, unless these are just.
It's a regular schedule for the 39.
Jason Scheck blew up in his pit stall.
Oh, okay, that's why we didn't see it. And yep, he's just now retired out of the race. Can confirm Bob Seminara came in for a pass-through, speeding on pit road. That's one of our playoff contenders. You cannot afford a mistake with how these races have trended green in the closing stages. Especially in the second half of this race, you cannot afford a penalty like that. And Seminara is going to cycle around to around 22nd.
These cars are going 3, almost 4 wide. Woo. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there, but getting past these cars getting up to speed here, that was close.
And you got a couple of cars getting lapped in the process as well. The 6 and the 92 were getting lapped.
Terry Bombard might come out with the lead in this race.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right.
I think he's going to cycle around, perhaps, as the race leader.
Great run for Terry here tonight. He's the second highest in points of those that did not lock themselves into the playoffs. Richard Martin is the highest. And who will forget? What was it? 3? I think it was the 3 races ago from this racetrack. So it had been 5 races ago when Terry Bombard and JT Mayhew both tried that fuel strategy, tried to make it. And came up just short. Terry Bombard ran out of fuel. I think it was in the middle of 3 and 4 on the final lap. Almost pulled off a heist on the rest of the field. But here tonight, leading this race, Jeremy Jeffries taking a peek there to the left rear quarter panel. But Terry Bombard out in front, strong, trying to be, since we had the 2-race final round implemented, trying to be the first non-playoff driver to go to victory lane here in the first race of the round of 8. Jeremy Jeffries, Rodney Sullins, Grant Wesley, and Joe DeSpirito, all 4 playoff contenders, hounding his back bumper. Now, I would think if you're these 4 drivers, you would be content to ride behind Terry because he's creating the draft for you. And if he's creating the draft for you, you could go maybe a little bit further on this run on fuel. I still don't think anybody can necessarily make it, but you have a better chance, I think, if you are the 2nd, 3rd, 4th place car than if you're out there in clean air. I mean, that's just the rules of super speedway racing, regardless of if it's 1X or 2X. And I may have seen the 24 of Joe DeSpirito for a brief moment throw in the clutch. You saw them catch the 712 of Bob Seminara. They've now put him a lap down. He'll be looking to fight to be one of the first 2 cars 1 lap down should we get a caution. Brian Rawson and Bobby Farrell both just bypassed him, so he's got to get up and pass one of those drivers to get back into at least the lucky dog conversation. Got some other drivers they're catching as well. Ron Hagelin, who had the spin on pit road. He's about to go a lap down. And then it would be about another 10 seconds up to a group of 4, including Craig Hagley, Bernie Mobbs, Doug Kulik, and Mark Paglia. So if you've been with us all race, or if you're just joining us, buckle up. This is going to be a very interesting final run to the checkered flag. Barring a yellow, these drivers projected are 2 to 3 laps short on fuel.
Even if you try to save, I don't think you could save 2 to 3 laps.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
I'm trying to look at some of these drivers towards the very tail end of this pack. You got
Especially
Ken
if Terry
Roberts,
Bombard leading this race.
Tim Knopfsker, Brian Schilling back there, Greg Palmer. I don't know. The problem is if you're at the tail end of the pack and you try clutching, you run a chance of clutching for too long and losing the draft, which has been known to happen, particularly here at this racetrack. I've been trying to keep an eagle eye on most of these drivers up here at the front. Normally the telltale sign, if they're clutching, the car kind of bogs down into the racetrack for a moment. I've not seen that out of any of these drivers, so they may just be half throttling it here, which says to me that, to your point, I don't think any of them are going to be able to make it. So what do you think? Do you maybe, as soon as you hit a half cam projected, maybe come to pit road then? Or do you wait until the very last minute? Because remember, the point where these drivers would, the furthest they could go, we'd be within that point of no return. Plus we have lap machines, so you've got that extra lap, of caution as well. Do you run it until it's almost completely out, hoping that maybe a yellow flag comes out, saves you to be able to make those final couple of laps under pacing?
I'm not sure, Seth. I mean, our strategy has always been to run it out as far as you can to take the less amount of time on pit road. So I can't really tell you on that one.
Nail biter here tonight. Next week, we're going to be having our calculators on overdrive, trying to figure out who's going to be in the championship 4 to compete in the 2-race final round of the playoffs, as we'll be back under the lights at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway next Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join us for that one. Tonight's race at Talladega is setting the stage for that final elimination race of the season. And Terry Bombard out in front, showing the way. Oh, car blew up! That's Shelton in the 9!
I just had to say something.
Is the caution going to come out for that? No, she got down below the yellow line in time. No yellow flag going to wave. Green flag remains out as Shelton... Oh, now the caution's out. Caution waves. It's going to be the caution that's going to help these drivers be able to make it the rest of the way. Shelton was running in the 6th position last time by, as they're going to split some cars coming back here to the yellow. Jeremy Jeffries made the move on Terry Bombard, but I don't think he got the spot. Nope, they're saying Terry led at the caution. Second caution of the evening, mechanical failure for Shelton after leading a race-high 23 laps. Now comes the games for these drivers, though, of do you stay out, try and clutch the couple of laps you were lacking, or do you come to pit road and top off the fuel tank? I think first half of this field might go with option A. Drivers towards the back end of the pack will certainly go with option B. What have they got to lose?
Yeah, that's gonna be the big question. Can you save enough gas under yellow?
We had 20 drivers on the lead lap at the timing of that yellow flag. Brian Rawson and Bobby Farrell look like they're going to get the free pass, which means Bob Seminara will still be trapped one lap down unless he takes the wave around, in which
He would have to waste gas.
he would still have to pit, right? So I would certainly think.
Hi guys.
Hello.
Well, that happened.
That's a tough break.
All right, so, with this, they should be able to make it the rest of the way. So.
Well, can they make it the rest of the way even with clutching under these pacing laps?
Well, I don't remember who said so, but there was a couple of people who said that they could actually, if they've saved enough to actually think they could make it the rest of the way. So it'll be interesting to see who actually could make it if they do stay out.
I mean, I thought it was going to be a split decision here. Maybe half the cars stay out and half the cars come to pit road, but there's, one car, I think, on pit lane right there, and that's Donnie Garrett. Everybody else is staying out.
Imagine Donnie Garrett passes everybody when everybody runs out of gas.
It was like, what was it, like 12, 14, I believe I told Michael. It was like, I had to come in 12 laps, and there was like 14 laps to go. So it was that close.
I gotta say this. It was maybe about, what was it, 10 laps ago, just prior to that last pit stop, I had knocked on wood and said that you've been running a great race and nothing, and I hope that nothing bad happens to you.
So I get to take him out like in a different league later on. I understand that. Okay.
Was it legitimate wood, Michael, or was it linoleum?
No, it was legitimate.
I just can't believe the caution came out for that though.
Yeah,
I thought I was down low enough not to bring it out.
It looked like the green lights were still on, and then
they were, and then they were on, and then they just suddenly turned on. They were off. It was green.
I mean, I didn't think anyone was coming that would like impede any wreck or anything, so that was interesting.
Yeah, I was surprised the caution came out too, to be honest.
Okay, so who are the lucky dogs?
Rawson and Farrell, according to the scoring when they crossed the line there.
Okay.
So this puts Bob Seminara in a tough situation after the speeding penalty, because he's still a lap down, and with the drivers up here, at least up at the front, looking like they're not coming down pit road, he's going to still stay a lap down, would not even be able to take the wave around at this point.
That was an unfortunate issue with Bob. Bob and I had talked on how we would come into pit road, because, you know, when you come into pit road, you don't want to, like, go over on top of one another by accident, so we were calling it which way we wanted to come in, and I'm always comfortable coming in high, because I always feel like I'm going to lock it up if I go too low, and I'm going to, like, turn to the left or something, you know, or turn back to the right. And he said he would try to go low, and he doesn't prefer that, you know, at that point in this track. So he tried it, and he said that it just locked up on him a little bit, and that's what happened with him. And you know how pit road is, Seth.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And pit road is coming to play a lot more this season, I think, than it has in previous seasons. We've seen a lot of long green flag runs. We've seen a lot of green flag pit stops, and it's molded the eventual playoff grid. And here tonight, of course, right there, as we saw with Seminara having to serve the pass-through, it's affected this round of 8. So Seminara, barring another yellow flag coming out, maybe getting back in the lead lap, he'll be a little bit behind the 8 ball heading into the elimination race next week.
Yeah, no kidding. And, you know, that's a really big deficit to try to crawl out of, especially depending on where he finishes in this race specifically. I mean, I don't know if he actually led a lap earlier or not.
Let me double check. No, he did not.
I mean, there's quite a few people who have not led a lap that are in the title hunt too. I mean, so I don't know how close points would be specifically in that matter. I don't know if it's still, you know, you want to get the most laps. I mean, I think Grant at this point may have led the most laps at this point. I'm not sure.
Out of the playoff contenders, I think you're right. He's led 4.
Race. What about the race?
Total?
Yeah.
You have the most laps led with 23.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But you brought up the point.
Irony?
You brought up the point, though, and I went back through the running order. 5 of the 8 playoff contenders have led a lap tonight, so they've got the bonus point. Terry Bombard's saving a ton. Because he
That's
led
gonna,
most of that last green flag run, so he would obviously be at the
he's gonna
hugest
have to.
deficit here.
Yep, he's gonna have
and,
to save the most.
and you were speaking specifically about the laps led 5 out of the 8, and with that being said, that's also going to put a damper on Bob Seminara depending on where he finishes.
Correct. I think the 3 playoff drivers that have not led so far this evening were Seminara, obviously, Kelly Causey, and Jeremy Jeffries. Those are the 3 that have not yet gotten the bonus point for a lap led. The other 5 drivers have.
Well, so who are you? Well, I mean, like, who are you specifically looking at? I mean, other than me, Michael, but like, who are you specifically looking at that seem to be strong outside of the box? Because to me, you had Grant up there, you had Nosker and Schilling working together up there. Honestly, every time I looked around, it was either Grant or Chuck, and I mean Joe was up around me as well quite a bit. So I mean, do you think Joe's going to be able to pull this off and advance, or do you think he's going to be upset with that little streak he had come to an end last week thanks to Michael Norman?
Yeah, that's true. Last week was the end of the top 5 streak for Despirito that stretched the entirety of the regular season. I was kind of looking at drivers that charged through the field. McClure had a poor qualifying spot. He was able to get up into the top 5 within about 11 laps. Jeremy Jeffries, he was at like the tail end of the lead pack after the first cycle of pit stops, worked his way up into the top 5, and Despirito, who was involved in that first caution, he started at the rear of the field for the first restart and now has made his way back up into the top 5. So if you're kind of looking at the hard chargers, I think that trio would be drivers you have to look at. And how about Kelly Causey in 7th place? Was involved in the first caution, was flipping over in turn 3.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he got flipped over. And he's up here in the top 10 in 7th place, 1 week removed from picking up the checkered flag in a must-win situation back in the elimination race of the round of 13.
Well, wouldn't this be great if he gets a win and it actually just makes him relax this time? It's like, you deserve a relaxation moment.
It'll be the first time that Causey has been back-to-back, I believe, in the Tally Challenge in his career.
It'll be an RJ Bishop moment, flip and win.
You know, maybe it rolls over to this series.
You know, the one person who I've seen consistent as well, outside of who we mentioned, was Donnie. Donnie's been up near the front, too, quite a bit.
Seth, that was a nice pun, and I don't think you realized it.
I didn't. Donnie Garrett, by the way, did come to pit road under that caution period, so he knows for absolute certain he can go 110%. Also, the Lucky Dogs came to pit road as stack up there on both lanes.
Jeffrey's
okay, I have a question for you. And I'm not trying to specifically call anyone out for hating or liking or whatever, but is it lane changing before the line allowed?
I don't know. We'd have to ask the RTG officials that one.
It would depend on what lane you were swapping to or from.
Okay, because I did see one individual switch lanes before the line, and there wasn't a huge check up in front, and it was on the bottom, that they switched from the bottom to the high side before the line. So
I'm not sure.
That right there might be something worth thinking about.
I guess it would depend on if the game penalized you or not. If you didn't get a black flag, I guess it's all legal, but if you got a black flag, then more than likely I would think you would have had to have served it if it was a lane change. Grant Wesley's in the wrong lane. Whoa, Rodney!
A little bump in there.
Yikes, nice save there by Rodney Sullins.
Joe got a huge, it was like an accordion effect there.
Wreck in the back, big wreck in the back.
Bob Dixon,
We're racing back, remember, we are racing back.
John Godfrey, Brian Ross, and Cy Jones. McClure's now out in front. I don't think we're to the point of no return here. I think we would get back green.
No, but it is under 15 to go, so they are racing back.
Metallic moves to second, Schilling into third.
3 wide still back here. Jeremy down low.
Terry Bombard stuck in the middle line there. Grant continuing to fall back.
Hey, and you know what? This is going to benefit Bob Seminara here. He'll get the Lucky Dogs.
You're absolutely right. I believe Bob Dixon would have been the other driver that would have gotten the Lucky Dog, but he was involved in that wreck, so we'll have to see who the second driver is. Might be Ron Hagelin. And McClure is going to lead us back here to the caution.
We're either going to get 2 laps to go or 1 lap to go. 4 laps of pacing would give us a 1-lap shootout.
Well, if these drivers were close on what they were saving under the last caution, they can definitely make it, I think, now.
Yeah, they should be able to. Not a problem. They can save a couple laps under. If they clutch for like what 2 or 3 laps under caution, they should actually have at least 1 to almost 2 laps saved. Not a problem.
Can confirm at the line. Bob Seminara, Ron Hagelin, going to be the lucky dogs under this caution period.
And going back to that, Seth, the caution that just saved Seminara here. Now that he's on the late lap, if he doesn't get to make up too much spots in the little green flag run that we're going to have, all it takes is one big wreck or something like that, and those are spots gained that he's really going to need. Even if it's like 5 to 10, every spot matters and every spot counts at this point.
Absolutely. Looked like a stack up there. Bernie Mobbs, Bob Dixon, John Godfrey, and then Brian Rawson slides into it as well. I'll go back to your point there about Seminara. We've seen in the past, we saw it here tonight as well, drivers have been able to work their way from the back of the pack up to the front, but normally it takes them about 6, 7, 8 laps. If we're going to get maybe a maximum of 2 laps here, is there a possibility for Seminara, even if we don't have a wreck, to be able to make up a big chunk of positions here?
Oh, okay. Okay. You want to know if there's a possibility? I got 4 people that are 1, 2, 3, 4 right now in this running. Have you not been watching them on that high side make those moves and just pass the whole field?
True. Fair point.
Because I have seen that, I have been part of that, and I have been passed with that. So I know that is a possibility. He just has to find himself with the right people in the right position, and there is a chance Bob could, get up there. But again, the people that Bob will have to pass, that's going to be something entirely different.
Oh, big hit there for Cy Jones when Godfrey came back down the racetrack. Bob Dixon, who we were focused on the first replay shot, was in the lucky dog position, but involved in the wreck, so Hagelin ends up becoming the second driver to get the free pass here under this yellow flag. And
considering Tim Knopfler missed last week, coming back with not being part of it based on what he had to deal with last week, this is a really great redemption race right now going for Tim. He's in 4th. Demar and Doug. How about Doug Hewlick sitting there in 6th, Seth?
Great run for him. We haven't even mentioned his name tonight, I think. He's kind of just been lying in wait and up there when it matters in the closing stages here. Good run for him. That last run right there kind of shuffled things up, too, because McClure, Schilling, they were kind of back outside of the top 5. They're now up here inside of the top 4, actually the top 3. The drivers we were talking about, like Jeremy Jeffries and Joe DeSpirito, Kelly Causey, Grant Wesley, they all got shuffled out from 7th place on back to 14th for this upcoming restart.
Let's see if they can come through the pack here, but like I said, Seth, it might be a 1-lap shootout.
I don't think it's going to be a 1-lap shootout. It might be a green-white checkered, I believe.
I'm going to ask you this question from a driver's standpoint here, Jess, because you've taken part in this series season after season. Season 59 was the season that they first implemented the 2-race final round for the championship. And in the last 2 seasons, the first playoff race of the round of 8, a playoff contender has gone to victory lane. And we're talking anywhere from a 3.5 to 4 to 1 ratio of non-playoff drivers to playoff drivers. How is it that with the odds stacked against them, we've been able to have one of our Elite 8 go to victory lane in back-to-back seasons? How has it not been that a non-playoff driver has kind of spoiled the party?
Well, you know how when you grab so many points or you win early in the season, you're like, okay, I can just finish top 5s or, just do my best. I can try this or I can try that. I can be a little bit more conservative, right? Now, when we have this round of opener, they don't care. It's what they call balls to the wall, all out. They're going. They're going to take the risk. They are going to do the craziest move that they should not be doing, just relaxing and just, trying to salvage what they can, not pushing the issue because it may cause a wreck. Well, these guys here, they know what they can do. They know what they are capable of doing. So the craziest, most riskiest moves that may cause a caution, they're going to go for it and try it just to get into that round. There's more on the line And, you know, in my mind, to win the first round, to actually advance, and that's all they can think about is win the first round, advance, win the first round, advance. And then I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the next race, like for example, if you win like 2 races in a row, or you finish first in this one, you're automatically locked. But if you finish like second or third, don't they accumulate points in
They
between
do.
too?
Yep.
And
We ended up
that's what it's all
having.
about.
What was it? Was it? I think it was 2 seasons ago. We ended up having 2 drivers. I think it was Wesley and Seminara won the final 2 races of the season, but it didn't matter that they won. They got the top amount of points in those races, but as you said, it came down to the cumulative amount of points that they got in both races as to who ended up hoisting the championship trophy, which in the end was Grant Wesley.
Yeah, and well, like I said, now I'm not saying these guys will be ridiculous and stupid enough to like, oh, okay, we're going to wreck on purpose or whatever. They're not going to do that, obviously. It's just that they feel like they can make those, you know, moves, and they will make those moves because they're confident in their ability, and the people that are in this race have raced around them long enough to know, okay, I trust you even though I don't like you making that move, but I trust you to do it. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of give and take, but again, points accumulating, trying to be as aggressive as possible, making those risky moves to actually win the race, to have that comfort. The more points you get, you know, we're in the playoffs, so it's going to mean a lot more for every position no matter what at this point.
Interesting point of fact of Bob Seminara getting back on the lead lap as well, because that now opens up the battle once again in the bracket challenge. With Seminara a lap down, Bobby Farrell looked like he was going to run away with this thing and move on to face Rodney Sullins next week. Bobby Farrell is going to restart in 19th. Seminara, getting the lucky dog, will restart just a couple cars behind him in 22nd. So that battle is going to be back on here in this final 2-lap shootout.
Yeah, this 2-lap shootout's going to be very interesting to watch too, Seth. Keep an eye out. You never know what's going to happen.
Can they make it back to the white flag's going to be the big
Who's gonna
question.
Sputter?
I don't think anybody's going to sputter. I think they're good.
You're damn, I wanted to say it so bad. I was going to say your face.
Hagelin and Seminara are now entering turn 3, so here they are catching the field. But now, you wonder who's going to be throwing blocks, seeing the runs coming,
That's
and
the
that
thing,
right there is what's going to, that right there is what's going to throw out this big gaggle up here, like the mid-pack and above here. I mean, I don't know, Seth. I think they're going to try to make that run early on right away if it were me.
Well, McClure and Schilling worked together along with Metallic and Nofsko to get up here to the front. Now they're here, and both of them want that automatic ticket into the Final Four, so they were allies for a moment. I think now it's every man for themselves, and they've got some non-playoff drivers around them there with Metallic, Nofsker. How about the defending champion Richard Martin and Doug Kulik up here in the first 3 rows? Green flag's gonna wave here. Green, white checker to settle this thing out.
And there's that third lane going already up
Kelly
there.
Causey. Why the heck not? Must win, made his way into this round of 8 last week. Going for broke here. Trying to lock himself into the Final Four. Doug Kulik stepping out there with Rodney Sullins and Terry Bombard. 3 wide for around the 5th position. A lot of movement right there.
Oh, there's a wreck back here.
Caution's out. We're racing back.
Off the bumper of someone.
White flag to not waves. This race will end under yellow. We're racing back to the proverbial checkers.
Seminara was involved and collected in that, FYI on that. Really close racing between Grant Wesley and Glenn Harris here for every position that matters here. Grant Wesley gonna make a 4 wide here.
And at the line, it's Chuck McClure over Martin and Schilling. McClure, barring any trouble here in this final 2.66 mile pacing lap, he has locked himself a trip into the Final Four.
Of course, because you know, Seth, this is in R11. We gotta watch that pace car.
That's right.
The stack up. The stack up is real.
Everybody throwing in the clutch, waiting for the Chevy Corvette pace car to pick them up.
Yeah, that started with, I believe, a bad bump or a bumper grab or a hook regarding whoever was behind the 45 machine of Tom Dixon, because Tom Dixon got turned straight up into a Bob Seminara who got involved, and I mean, any hope that happened right there, I mean, it's gone now, unfortunately, for Seminara, for at least tonight. I mean, there's still 1 race left, and anything can happen next race.
Chuck McClure is a former Tally Challenge champion, but I, at least to my recent memory, cannot remember the last time past that he advanced into the Final Four. I'm going to have to see during our post-race wind-down if I can find the last time that he was in the Final Four to compete for the championship. It might have been his championship season. But he is now locked into the championship battle, and you mentioned it, Jess, the mentality of kind of utilizing this as a must-win situation race, that we have that peace of mind heading into next week. Chuck McClure will be able to do just that. Schilling was behind him off of 4. I don't know if he was comfortable just riding behind the 17, garnering the points for second place, or if with Richard Martin making that move on the outside line, there was no lane available up top for Schilling to be able to try and make a pass through the tri-oval.
I mean, you just mentioned that he can relax a little bit. I highly doubt he's going to relax.
No,
he's going to go for all points next week. Don't matter. But I do want us to take a moment to get a really close look up on that 17 machine, because that sponsor that he's sponsored by right there means a lot in this community, and you know what I'm talking about, Seth.
Yep, Race LM Arena. Of course, the servers that this series and a lot of others run on. Great service done here to the NR 2003 community. We saw this paint scheme change a couple of weeks ago for Chuck McClure. He actually put it in Victory Lane in the scheme's debut. And Glenn Harris gets to be the one this week that we point out that spins out the race winner. There's always one.
All right, so I enjoy helping you broadcast the last few laps, even though it was kind of like
unfortunate circumstances for it, though.
I know. I wish it was more if I was going to broadcast and help. I wish it would have been a lot more instead. But things happen on the track. I can't control that. That was like one of those random blowups. You just can't predict it, and you just can't do nothing about it. But anyway, I appreciate you letting me come up here like always, and I'm going to let you guys do your business with the post race and all. And thank you for letting me do it, Seth.
Okay, glad to have you. Appreciate you jumping in. Chuck McClure going to make his way down here through the tri-oval to the start-finish line. And he's going to get ready to burn it down here at Talladega. Might be one of the biggest wins he's had in a while, because it's a trip back to the championship 4. And Jess brought it up, and I think she's absolutely right. I don't think he's just going to wait around and see what happens next week. He knows he's locked into the championship battle. He can utilize next week as a testing period for when the championship hangs in the balance when we get to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway in 3 weeks' time for the final race of the year.
Yep. You got questions, Seth, and don't forget, we can always go back and take a look at that last track.
And we are definitely going to do that. Well, Chuck McClure did have a flawless burnout going on.
What is flawless?
I think he's going to use up every last bit of fuel that's in that tank. I don't know if he's going to have any tires left. But Chuck McClure, he knows he's moving on to the next round of the playoffs. Next week will determine the other 3 drivers that will be joining him. We'll have to see what the fallout is as far as point standings are concerned here from the conclusion of this race. Jess alluded to the fact that Bob Seminara, after getting the lucky dog, was involved in that last wreck, which we're going to go back and look at right now. He crossed the line, last car on the lead lap, in 23rd, so he did manage to finish the race on the lead lap, but did not gain any positions after getting the free pass. Let's go back and take a look at what brought out this race-ending yellow. At 2 to go, coming to the white flag. This was over in turn 3. 45 of Tom Dixon. Looks like he's going to get a uneven bump in the left rear quarter panel from Bob Dixon. Up into Seminara, John Van Gorder, nowhere to go as well. And that brings out the yellow. Ooh, man, the 45 almost actually flipped as the right side tires were gripping the outside wall. Spins it down to the infield grass. Yellow flag waved, and Chuck McClure won the battle back to the stripe. Let's actually follow that battle back to the line. Let's go via the helicopter cam. because I want to specifically watch the 43 of Richard Martin. Did he get to the right rear quarter panel of Bob Summit? I'll get the name right eventually, of Brian
Will you,
Schilling
though?
coming
But
off
hurry
of
up.
turn 4, taking away the option of Schilling trying to jump to the outside of McClure for this race win. Here they are through 3 and 4. Martin's going to jump up here off of 4. And it looks like right at that point right there, right where Schilling would have maybe made the move, it looks like the 43 was there, or at least he was within the hitbox range where bumper grab would have come into play. So that kind of boxed Schilling out from being able to jump up to that outside line. We'll be able to find out from Brian Schilling if he was fine with riding behind Chuck McClure here, or if indeed his option did get taken away, because we'll be talking with him along with Richard Martin and tonight's race winner, Chuck McClure, in our post-race interviews in just a moment. Let's first take a look at the final finishing results here tonight. McClure locks himself into the final 4. Demar brings it home in 2nd, Schilling in 3rd, Jeremy Jeffries in 4th, with Donnie Garrett in 5th. So 3 playoff contenders inside of your top 5 tonight. Schilling and Jeffries will certainly be above the cut line heading into next week. Josh Metallic brings it home 6th. Doug Hewlett, great run in 7th. Joe DeSpirito worked his way back up into the 8th spot. Tim Nofsker in 9th, and Rodney Sullins completes the top 10. So 5 of your playoff contenders finish in the top 10. Kelly Causey just outside the top 10 in 11th place. Then Terry Bombard, Glenn Harris, Greg Palmer, Grant Wesley, your top 15. Wesley was never able to recover after he got shuffled into the middle on the next to last restart. Ken Roberts, Craig Hagley, Mark Paglia, Brian Rawson, and Bobby Farrell completed the top 20. Bernie Mobbs in 21st, Ron Hagley in 22nd, Bob Seminara, last car to finish on the lead lap, in 23rd. He was also the last finishing playoff contender tonight, so he will be below the cut line heading next week. We'll have to wait and see by how many points. He was, I believe, -4 to the cut line coming into this race. And then the rest of the drivers lap down there: Wiley Coate, Bob Dixon, John Van Gorder. Tom Dixon out of the race after being involved in that last wreck. Cy Jones 5 laps down, and then John Godfrey, Jessica Shelton, and Jason Scheck did not reach the conclusion of this one. Let's head into our FRN post-race wind-down, and let's dial up our podium finishers on the evening. One driver who will have a pretty good points gap between himself and the cut line, bringing it home in P3, would be the driver of the number 4, Brian Schilling. Let's see if we can dial him up.
User was moved.
Hey, Brian,
to
Michael and Seth up here in the FRN booth. You got us?
Yep.
Great run for you here tonight. Didn't get the benefit of good starting track position off of the random qualifying draw, but able to get that third lane to work, especially in the second half of this race, to get yourself up there into the top 5, and then in the top 3 for that final restart. Now, we did a little bit of an onboard, did a little bit of dissecting of that final run to the checkers off of turn 4. Want to get the driver's point of view. If you had the shot there to the outside, were you going to try and make that move on the 17, or were you pretty committed to his back bumper?
I was committed to his back bumper. Chuck and I have an unwritten rule: we don't leave our wingman.
Well, great points tonight for you as well heading into next week. We ended up talking to you the last time we were at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. You had a solid outing there. So, I mean, with a good start here to this round of 8, granted you don't have that golden ticket into the Final 4, but this has got to give you confidence into making into the Final 4 to battle for the championship.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Good finishes always make life a lot easier. Winning fixes everything, but good finishes makes things easier, at least.
Yeah, winning's the key, it seems, especially in this series, especially in the playoffs. Now, here this evening, again, much like we've seen most of the year, it really came down to pit stops. And of course, there at the end, also, it was coming down to fuel. Granted, the couple of late cautions we had allowed you drivers to be able to save enough to make it the rest of the way. But what were we looking at as far as a scenario there when we were about that 22, 21 laps to go mark? Could you make it on fuel at that point in time, or were you going to have to come down for maybe just a couple of droplets?
No, I was good to go. I can tell you, there was 3 cars in that lead draft that could make it. 100%, no issue. Myself, Chuck, and Josh. The 3 of us had all pitted together. Tim was actually with us too, but he lost the draft. But yeah, we were A-okay to make it to the finish.
All right, so it would obviously been interesting to watch that play out, but a great run for you here tonight. Bring it home on the podium. Gonna be interesting to see when the calculations are in, what you've got for an advantage above that cut line heading into next week, a track that you've been very consistent at during the course of this season. Brian, congratulations on the great run tonight here at Talladega. Before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Well, thank you, Tim, for working with me a good chunk of that race. Chuck, congratulations. It's been a while since you got into the Final Four. Great to see. Like I said, I'll push you any day, and I know you'll push me any day. Just always great to work with you. And as usual, thank you everybody for coming out. Great job on the broadcasts. Always a pleasure to go back and watch. I'll go back and watch it tomorrow and enjoy every minute of it. So thank you, everyone.
And by the way, thank you to you too from Jason Sheck in our YouTube comments for the motor.
Oh, yeah, sorry, Jason.
But Brian Schelling, he's going to be in pretty good shape heading into the elimination race next week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, your third place finisher here tonight. Congratulations. Best of luck next week. Hopefully we're talking to you again and seeing you advance into the Final Four, looking for another championship here in this series.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Brian Schilling
User
finishing
was moved
second
out of
position,
your channel.
about maybe a tenth and a half behind this driver who had a very late surge through the tri-oval, got second place. Maybe if he had an extra lap, he might have gotten the win. Let's see if we can dial up Richard Martin.
User was moved
Hey,
to your
Demar, Michael
channel.
and Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
I do.
Great run for you here this evening. Almost pulled off that victory. Had a lot of momentum off of turn 4. Maybe needed a couple more 100 feet. Probably would have needed that final lap there to be under green. But almost pulled off this win here tonight. I mean, we talked to you. We talked to you last season. Won the championship without winning a race, and you focus a lot on consistency. But looked like here tonight, you weren't worried about consistency. You wanted that checkered flag.
Yeah, I was going for it, no question about that. But I didn't quite have enough help at the end. I had the one car behind me pushing, and I think after him there wasn't much going on back there. But I think there was 2 down low as well. But yeah, just came up about a half a car length short. Like you said, I could have used another 100 yards or so, and maybe would have done better. But overall, great finish.
Yeah, and you did so too from, I think it was the third or fourth lane on this restart. We were going to have an in regulation green white checkered. We know it takes drivers probably about till turn 3, I would say, until you guys get up to full song. So, how were you able to find that kind of momentum getting up to speed with us only having roughly about a little over 2.5 miles before we got back to the proverbial checkered flag to be able to make that kind of a move? Because normally we see drivers not be able to make that move until about a lap after the restart.
You really got to be on it. Like when when it goes green, you got to be clear your head, and as soon as they say green, you got to be going. Otherwise, you'll lose half a car length, and then that could be the difference between gaining a little momentum there to try to go by somebody or not.
Now, we mentioned about the fact as well, unfortunately, not in the playoffs, not able to defend your title from season 60, but you are the highest driver in the point standings that is not a playoff contender. So, does that still give you something to kind of race for? Finish that highest that you're possibly able to mathematically, 14th in points here with these final 3 races on the season?
Oh yeah, for sure. I go into every race. Like you said, last year was more about the consistency, but now it's more about the wins and trying to get up there and win a race. But if this thing would have went green without that one caution, I don't know what would have happened because I got pushed out. I don't know if you saw that, but barely saved it. I was in the grass down by the wall, and I was able to bring it back up. Um, and then I got behind Wiley and saved a little fuel because I think I would have made it to the end. But kind of lucky the caution came out though. Then I really didn't have to worry about fuel, and a bunch of guys pitted, and then that moved me up into the top 10 really quick because a lot of guys had to duck in. But yeah, it was a good overall race, except for that one incident. I just didn't think after that I was going to get back, but we did.
Yep, we did catch that big save you had there through the tri-oval. Great job keeping that thing under control and bringing it back to finish in second place here tonight. Richard, before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shout-outs.
Well, first of all, congratulations to Chuck. Great job. He had a little bit of help, a little bit more help than me at the end, but we're good friends. So, I'm happy for him. I'd like to thank Flatout Racing Network, Seth. I think Michael's up there tonight. I'd like to thank Josh, Tim, Sean, and I don't really thank Wiley enough. I don't know if I've ever brought up his name, but I'd like to thank him. And yeah, it was a good race overall. Enjoyed it.
Great race for sure from start to finish. Second place performance for Richard Martin here tonight. Congratulations on that great run. Best of luck next week at BSR. Maybe we talk to you in that one position better down in Victory Lane.
I really hope so, guys. I'm going to be going for it. Thank you very much.
Richard Martin, runner-up finisher here
User
tonight.
was moved out of your
Interesting
channel.
how a driver's points positioning kind of changes their mentality. He was in the championship battle last season, of course, advanced into the Final Four through consistency, and also through consistency garnered enough points to just barely best Joe DeSpirito for 1 point to win the championship. And this season, he's not in the playoffs, and no consistency. He wants those checkered flags. Kind of interesting when you see a driver's mentality change like that depending on positioning. A driver that wants consistency and checkered flags, so he wants that championship. He's locked himself into the round of 4. Let's go down to Victory Lane and talk to Chuck McClure.
User was moved.
Hey, Chuck,
to
it's
your
Michael and
channel.
Seth up here in the FRM booth. You got us?
Hi, guys.
That might have been the longest in terms of time burnout we've ever seen you do. Got to be maybe a burnout of elation and relief combined. You're locked into the Final Four. You got that victory to lock yourself into the playoffs in the regular season finale a few weeks ago. Now you've got some experimentation you can do next week. How good does it feel to have that weight off your shoulder knowing that you're competing for another championship?
I am the best feeling guy out there. I could promise you that. And it's been such 3 or 4 seasons since I've had a chance to run for a championship. I am elated.
I believe it was season 56, the last time that you were up in that championship for. So yeah, long time coming. Been a bit of a championship winless streak, I guess, for you in terms of appearing up there in the Final Four. But this is going to be the first time that you're going to be in the Final Four with the new formatted final round. So as I said, with maybe some experimentation you can do next week after getting the checkered flag here. I mean, what is the goal for next week? Because you're going to have to be consistent through this racetrack and next week's racetrack in that final round with the championship hanging in the balance.
Well, goal one is to stay out of trouble. And of course, not putting anybody else in any trouble. But a very close second to that is to help the people that's been helping me all season. And that's the 4, 88, and the 28, 39. So, yeah, you got to give it back when you can. And goal one is to get them in it with me.
Now, obviously, we didn't get a chance to run the entirety of this in regulation green-white checkered. Caution came out with you drivers coming back to the white flag, and the proverbial checkered flag race ended under yellow. Saw a bit of a drag race there between you and the 43. If we had run that final lap under green, did you have enough momentum on the bottom to be able to hold him off, do you think? Or would you have had to maybe try some blocks there on the back straightaway?
Yeah, I'd have had to block him. He was coming hard. I'm surprised that I actually pulled it out to beat him. He had a good run. Yeah, there was no way I was going to hold him off, and I didn't want to block him. I mean, solid points, but the win is great. Now I'm relaxed next week.
Now, I'm going to ask you because I asked Michael earlier, Jess hopped up in the booth. I asked her from a driver's standpoint. We're going to go right to the source because I mentioned this at the top of the program tonight. This is the 3rd season that we've had this 6-race playoff system with the final round consisting of 2 races. This particular race, the first race of the round of 8, in the past 2 seasons has been won by a driver that is in the round of 8. The ratio of non-playoff drivers to playoff drivers says that more than likely a non-playoff driver should win, but you've extended that streak now to 3 straight seasons of a round of 8 driver going to victory lane. Can you explain why that is, how you and the other playoff 8 drivers seem to consistently each season now be able to find your way up to the front when it matters the most against the odds?
Well, there's a reason that the crowd that you have going for the championship is there. It's consistency, clean driving, and knowing when and when not to go. So I honestly expect a playoff driver to win every race the rest of the season, including the start of the playoffs a few weeks ago. Uh, it'd be a surprise to me if they didn't.
Definitely be interesting to follow. Up to this point, we have, to your point, in these first 3 playoff races, had one of the playoff contenders go to victory lane. So, yeah, will be interesting to see if these final 3 playoff races, if playoff contenders go to victory lane as well. But Chuck, congratulations, locking yourself into the final 4. It'll be a lot of fun to watch this number 17 next week, knowing that you're worry-free and battling for the championship here in season 61. Job well done here tonight. Kept the car clean all evening, made that late charge when it mattered for being on the pole for that final restart, and half a car length able to lock yourself in with that golden ticket into this year's championship battle. Before we let you go and get back to your celebrating, we'll give you the opportunity for Victory Lane. Thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
I want to tell everybody at RTG here that the admins do a phenomenal job. All Josh and Tim and Bones and Prime, all of them just go above and beyond to give us a good place to race with. Race LM too. Rodney painted that on my car. He put magic sprinkles in. He told me when I took the checker that he wanted the sprinkles back, but I'm not doing it because I think he put them in the base coat. Um, you guys at FRN, you do a great job. I love watching these things, even when I don't finish so good. All my friends and family watching, everybody at Marshall County Schools watching, rooting for me. I can't thank everybody enough. And yeah, I'm going to be relaxed next week.
That's Chuck McClure. He'll be relaxed, which means he could be dangerous to maybe get a 3rd victory on the season next week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Chuck, congratulations once again on the victory. Go and enjoy it, and we'll look forward to seeing you go to work and battling for this championship when we come back here to Talladega in 2 weeks' time.
I appreciate it, guys.
Chuck McClure, your winner here tonight.
User was moved
A
out of your
multi-time
channel.
winner on the season. 2 victories in the last 4 weeks as well. And Michael, we now know at least one of the drivers that will battle for the championship. I have a feeling the other 7, they may be lining up outside the Rodney Sullivan's paint shop for a couple of those magic sprinkles. I think Michael has already left and he's standing in line apparently. So But thank you, everybody, for tuning into our coverage here tonight. We hope that you guys enjoyed it. Another unpredictable race. It was looking like it was going to come down to pit road execution. Then it looked like it was going to come down to fuel. And in the end, it came down to that final late restart to the checkered flag. The unpredictability makes it exciting here down the home stretch with the championship hanging in the balance. And next week, we will find out the final 3 drivers that will join Chuck McClure to battle for this season's championship. It'll be taking place at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway next Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Do not miss out. This has been a wild start to the playoffs, and we are now halfway through the playoffs. The championship is getting ever closer. Chuck McClure with the victory here tonight. Congratulations to him. I want to thank Jessica Shelton for jumping up here in the booth with us. Unfortunately, the engine expiring is the reason she was up here. Appreciate her insight during the course of this race. My thanks to Michael for being up here as well in the booth, joining me here this evening. And again, thanks to everybody that tuned in to our coverage. Tomorrow night, if you are an iRacing lover, right here on Flatout Racing Network on the YouTube side, split second broadcasting on the iRacing side, we bring you dual coverage of the 8th race of the season for the Upper Edge Racing Body Shop Super Speedway Series, as we'll be coming to you live from Daytona International Speedway, the next to last race of the season. It's going to be the setting the table, if you will, for the championship battle next week. That'll be tomorrow night, Friday evening, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is when the green is scheduled to fly. So join us for that. Again, join us next week here for the continuation of the playoffs for Season 61 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. Until then, though, for Michael Norman, I'm Seth Cole. Enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening, folks. We will see you guys next time as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to thank you for your support, and we hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast.